announced. Now let's go to Guam. The Pacific island in U.S. territory is the focus of North Korea's latest threat, as you just heard from Will. It's also home to 2 U.S. military bases and thousands of American citizens. CNN's Ivan Watson is there. And Ivan, President Trump just sought to reassure Americans, even as he issued another strong warning. But with this very specific threat from North Korea to strike the waters off the island, what is the response there in Guam?
You know, the local authorities here, the governor of Guam, who you interviewed yesterday, he hasn't issued a new response to this. He's standing by his position that the threat level has not increased to this island from when this kind of war of words between Washington and Pyongyang first began. I spoke at length with the governor, who said that, you know, he's confident in the U.S. military and its ability to protect this island from the ongoing kind of verbal and written threats now coming from North Korea. And he kind of stressed that there is a security umbrella here. There's an architecture of overlapping defensive measures that can protect this American island from the threats coming from North Korea. And he points out that any missiles that would be fired from North Korea would have to fly down through South Korea, over Japan, and then over hundreds of miles of open water and ocean to reach Guam, and that in doing so, it would have to pass through areas where you have other U.S. military bases, where you have the militaries of South Korea and Japan, which could all provide a protective buffer. And then at the end, there is the last line of defense here in Guam, which is a THAAD missile defense system put in place after previous threats by North Korea against Guam in 2013. That confidence from the local authorities, not reflected by all people on the ground here. Some people quite worried that North Korea is threatening their home. It's a tough message to try to tell your children, for example, on this island that's home to more than 160,000 Americans.
All right, Ivan Watson in Guam, thank you so much.
We could be gone tomorrow. Life in North Korea's crosshairs. With rough, callous hands, Guam local Marco Martinez steadily trims his fishing line. The 27-year-old is preparing to cast into the turquoise ocean that extends as far as the eye can see, the same waters that North Korea is developing a plan to send 4 missiles into, less than 25 miles from where he stands. If it does happen, okay, it happens, but I just try not to really think about it, Martinez told. Martinez was born and raised on this small island of 160,000 or so people. They're used to living with intimidation from North Korea, including in 2013 when Pyongyang warned that the island was within its striking range. However, the latest round of tensions firmly puts Guam at the center of a very specific and potent threat. A plan to fire 4 ballistic missiles into the stunning blue waters off the coast is being prepared for Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un by mid-August, state media reported Thursday. No one knows if or when the North Korea leader will give the order to launch. North Korea's estimated splashdown of the missiles would place them just outside Guam's 12 nautical mile territorial waters, but well within its 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone, waters where locals fish for tuna and blue marlin. Guam has been a U.S. territory for more than 100 years. Like Martinez, most of the dozen or so residents CNN spoke to weren't panicked. The U.S. military has a large presence here. Its bases covered almost a third of the island's land area, and prepares for worst-case scenarios like this. However, that doesn't mean people aren't worried, said Gideon Santos, who works at the Guam Museum. We're told to keep calm and that we're well protected, but the reality is we could be here today and gone tomorrow, she said. The island's governor, Eddie Calvo, has offered assurances, saying the island is well protected, including with the THAAD missile defense system, which is specifically designed to shoot down ballistic missiles. There is no panic in Guam, Calvo told CNN. I'm not trying to overlook it or understate it. We understand the threats, but we also don't want to panic anybody, and we don't want to jump to conclusions based on rhetoric. As he fishes, Martinez says North Korea remains at the back of his mind, despite his best efforts not to think about it. And he's pretty sure he's not alone. Sometimes I feel like they fear it but they just don't want to show it, don't want to express it, Martinez said. That's just sometimes how people are, they don't want to show their fear inside. Mushroom cloud lattes. If there is fear among Guam's younger community, however, you wouldn't know it at Infusion Coffee. The irreverent young staff behind the counter joke about the North Korean threat. They're even trying to perfect a mushroom cloud design in the foam on their lattes. We take it lightheartedly, said Mark Alex, 26. We also know it's very serious. We know that any moment, they could send those weapons, but I think a lot of us in the end are not too worried. However, as customers sip on their coffee and grab lunch, Kim Jong-un's threat is what many are talking about. But it's not the same talk of impending crisis you hear from politicians on the U.S. mainland, a place where Guam is rarely seen on the news. People are worried about their families stressing out, not a nuclear showdown. Most people that live here, they've heard this before, said Aaron Berger, who's lived here more than a decade. I'm really not concerned about it. We've been talking about this for more than 2 years. The silver lining, in Berger's view, is that people in the mainland U.S. now know more about his adopted home, an island that was a Spanish colony before the U.S. took control in 1898. Berger said the news is prompting his family to ask him when he's coming home. Local historian Malia Ramirez, who specializes in oral history, the verbal passing down of traditions from the elders, said he could sense the worry at the local laundromat Thursday. Mothers told him they were really apprehensive because you just don't know what's really going to happen. I know my sisters, because they have children, are concerned. I see it in their eyes. But they don't come out explicitly, he said. No stranger to conflict. There's no sign that people are considering leaving, especially those who were born and raised here, many of whom belong to the native Chamorro population. Guam is also a popular destination for Asian tourists, especially from Japan and South Korea, but, for now, there are no real signs that travelers are canceling trips. It's hard to find a room at the resorts dotted around the island. The island is no stranger to conflict. It was occupied by the Japanese for 3 years during World War II, the only U.S. territory to be invaded, and the July 21st Liberation Day holiday is one of Guam's biggest celebrations. If our past generations dealt with it, so can we, said Santos, the Guam Museum employee, who was born and raised on the island. There's nothing in the world other than God that would make me relocate and move away from my home.